Immigration and Customs Enforcement went so trigger-happy that they deported one of Donald Trump's own workers, then scrambled in a panic to undo their mistake. Yes, you heard that right. In the rush to unleash masked goons on every brown person within arm's reach, they swept up the same labor Trump has been underpaying on his water-guzzling golf courses. And the man at the center of it, listed in separate documents and reports as Alejandro Juarez, Alejandro Wards, or Alejandro Juarez, paid the price for their chaos. You're fired. Get out of here. That is the energy that defined this whole saga. Ice moves, the cuffs go on, and the bureaucracy lurches into motion like a runaway truck with no brakes. Only after the appetite for a quick score is fed do the emails start flying and the officials start whispering. Wait, who did we just put on that plane? Here is what happened. For over a decade, Alejandro worked on Trump's New York golf courses, the same pristine fairways that drink water by the millions of gallons and puff up the brand name that never stops shouting. Alejandro had lived in the United States without papers for 22 years. 5 days after being detained in New York City, he was marched to the same border he crossed many years earlier and forced to walk across a bridge over the Rio Grande. Agents unshackled restraints from his arms and legs on that bridge. He pleaded. He never had a chance to see an immigration judge, never got the hearing that due process guarantees. The Department of Homeland Security, instead of sending him to a detention facility in Arizona to await that hearing, put him on the wrong plane and pushed him across a port of entry into Mexico. Not only was Alejandro here without documentation, but his deportation itself was illegal, because the process skipped the judge entirely. That is not a technicality. That is the law. And the people carrying badges knew, or should have known, exactly what they were required to do. The moment the reality hit, ICE officials began scrambling. Bewildered emails, phone calls to detention facilities, a frantic jigsaw puzzle to reconstruct the whereabouts of the man they had already expelled. Somewhere in the middle of all that noise, someone tried to figure out how to reverse an action that never should have happened. Internal chatter called it what it was, a mistake. But there was a deeper problem. No one could even say how many people like Alejandro had been shoved through the wrong door, because the agency had not been tracking those wrongful removals at all. How many lives were skipped like pages in a rule book? How many families were shoved across a line and told to figure it out later? Now, put the hypocrisy under a bright light. For more than 10 years, the Trump operation kept Alejandro on the payroll on those New York golf courses, where the gold leaf name sits on every sign, while he had no papers. Everyone loves to shout law and order until the law points up the org chart. If it is illegal to continuously hire an undocumented worker, where are the cuffs for the bosses? Where are the owners getting shoved into the van? With the farmhands and greenskeepers, you and I both know we do not see that. We see farm workers in zip ties, dishwashers face down in driveways, hotel housekeepers herded out the back. But the owners are... The sloppiness is not an accident. It is the brand. Call it the Ice Barbie problem. Leadership more obsessed with costume store cosplay and press-ready swagger than with actual competence. Keep Kristi Noem and Marco Rubio in separate rooms, or she will try to deport him too. That is how unhinged this has become. A cosplay of law enforcement that confuses intimidation with professionalism and spectacle with justice. Governor Kristi Noem will look into the camera and say that no citizens are being swept up, that everything is focused and clean, that any report to the contrary is fake, except we have footage, testimony, and headlines that shred that claim into confetti. Consider the receipts. There is the American teenager on his way to school, who says masked agents grabbed and choked him in a shocking mix-up. He says he is born in the United States, and the scene is as raw as it gets. A kid trying to get to class, pressed to the ground as if being brown near a sidewalk were probable cause. Then there is the woman, who carried her social security card and work permits, everything in order, and still got thrown to the ground because she stumbled reciting her number. She is still in jail, by the way, still in jail. Add the citizens who were stopped, questioned, and threatened with arrest, including a state representative. You can hear the dialogue in your head, because it is the same every time. Show me the ordinance. If you keep it up, I will arrest you, and your lawyer can see it after the fact. You do not have the right to impede a federal agent. I am not impeding you. I am filming. I will put you under arrest. That escalation is not about safety. It is ritual intimidation designed to train the public not to look, not to ask, not to document. Now picture the family car. A parent behind the wheel, kids in the back seat. Federal vehicles pull alongside. Voices rise. Get out of the car. I have kids in my car. The words repeat each time more desperate. I have kids in my car. Sirens, shouted commands, tires crunching gravel, children crying. The only thing missing is accountability. The muscle shows up. The masks stay on. The rights go quiet. That is the climate in which Alejandro's case spiraled. Detained in New York City, held for 5 days, put on a plane to Texas, walked to a bridge, unshackled, ordered to cross. No judge, no hearing. Then, back in the United States, someone in an office realizes he was supposed to go to Arizona for the hearing. He is entitled to under federal law. The agency that rushed to deport him now races to find him, to correct the record, to figure out how to unwind their own illegal act. You can picture the subject lines. Urgent, where is Mr. Juarez or Wars or Juarez? Urgent. Confirm intake location, urgent. Wrong flight. Let us not glide past a hard truth. When the system gets this sloppy and this cruel, it is not just an oops. It is the logical conclusion of a politics that treats human beings as props. It is the fantasy of skipping due process. Grab someone off the street, kidnap them in broad daylight, drive them to the border, and kick them out of the van. The problem beyond the shameless indecency is that it is illegal. Due process is not a courtesy. It is a constitutional promise. A hearing before a judge is not optional. It is required in the vast majority of cases. And if that promise means anything at all, it must mean the agents, the supervisors, and the politicians who demand obedience are bound by it. Now take in the politics. Donald Trump is underwater on immigration. Poll after poll shows him in the red on this issue. People do not like what they are seeing. They do not like raids that seem surgically targeted at particular neighborhoods, while leaving others untouched. They do not like that there are roughly 1.5 to 2 million undocumented white and Asian people in the United States. Yet we never see Little Italy or Ukrainian village lit up with dawn raids. Maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe it is selective vision. Either way, voters notice the pattern. Power punches down, and the law pretends not to see up. Through it all, the hypocrisy keeps flashing like a neon sign. While he was here, without papers, Alejandro's deportation was illegal because he never saw a judge. Meanwhile, the people who hired him for over a decade are fine. Not cuffed, not booked, not paraded past cameras. Imagine if the law were applied with the same force to the owners as to the landscapers, the dishwashers, the busboys, and the women who clean rooms at hotels where the owners never have to stay. Imagine the headlines if the words perp walk and country club shared the same sentence. Let us name more names, because the story is full of them. Kristi Noem stands in front of cameras and guarantees no citizens are being detained, even as examples pile up of a teenager grabbed on the way to school, and a documented worker thrown down because she stumbled over her social security number. Corey Lewandowski, Kristi Noem's not-so-secret boyfriend, buzzes around the edges of the story like a reminder that politics is just another stage to strut on. Marco Rubio floats through the frame because even a Republican senator can become a target in a culture that confuses cruelty with control. The cast list expands. Agents barking orders. Local cops caught in the crossfire of ego and error. A state representative asserting the right to record. Unknown supervisors green-lighting the show of force. And above them all, Donald Trump, whose brand sits on the fairways where Alejandro worked for years, continues to present himself as the prophet of law and order, while his empire benefited from the very labor his people now violently police. You want solutions? Start with the basics. Fix the process. Stop the theatrics. Respect due process in every single case. End the performative raids. Provide a real path to legal status for long-time workers who have built lives here, paid taxes, raised families, and kept industries running while politicians argued past them. Call it amnesty if you want. I call it reality. We have had wave after wave of immigration in this country. It is the spine of our national story. Even Ronald Reagan could see that. Yet, Make America Great Again somehow translates into make the process crueler, sloppier, and more televised. The cruelty is the point. The camera is the witness. The law is an inconvenience. Meanwhile, back in the office, the emails keep piling up. An official tries to make sense of 3 versions of the same last name. Juarez was Juarez. Another dials a detention facility in Arizona and asks if a man who should have been there is there. Someone else messages a counterpart in Texas to see whether the bridge handoff was recorded. A supervisor asks for a timeline. Another asks for talking points. Somewhere, a legal counsel drafts a sentence that includes the words regrettable, unprecedented, and process review. Everyone agrees the optics are bad. Few dare to say the substance is worse. Because the substance is worse, the fear spreads. It spreads in the soft places of ordinary life. Carpools, bus stops, parking lots outside elementary schools. It spreads through neighborhoods, where the sound of a knock at the door can drain the color from a room. It spreads among citizens who worry that filming public officers on public streets will earn them a ride in the back of a van. It spreads among parents who coach their kids on how to talk to agents they should never have to meet. Keep your hands visible. Say as little as possible. Ask for a lawyer. Call me immediately. This is not safety. This is siege. You know what else spreads anger? It grows among people who are tired of the cosplay, tired of the Ice Barbie theatrics, tired of politicians like Kristi Noem who promise fairy tales at the podium while ugliness unfolds in the street, tired of the double standard that lets owners walk while workers run. It grows among those who can see the whole picture. A government agency that did not just cross the line but tripped over it, fell flat, and then sprinted back to paint it a different color. It grows among former Republicans who recognize that Marco Rubio and others are living in a party where even their colleagues need to check the room before they speak. It grows among independents who hear law and order and ask for whom. Alejandro's story is not an outlier. It is a flare in the night sky. A worker by every account. A quiet, steady presence, spends decades building a life in a country that was happy to take his labor and his silence. Then, one day, he is detained, held for 5 days, flown to Texas, marched to a bridge, unshackled, and told to walk. He pleads for the judge he never saw. He looks out over a river he crossed 22 years ago. Then, the same machine that shoved him out cannot even figure out where he is. That is not just a policy failure. It is a moral failure screaming through a megaphone.